So I did a thing. So this is the LG C4 7070 inch OLED that is going to be replacing my Samsung OLED here in the gaming kind of nook / lounge area. Big fan of these LG OLEDs. I have the C3, a C1 upstairs, a C10, and now we have the C4. This was me experimenting a bit with Samsung's like top of the line, and it's great in a lot of aspects. I'm just not a fan of the OS and how you navigate it. Just really used to the LG series and their whole WebOS, so a little winded. I did have to have movers get this because I do not have a car, nor the car that we do have is nowhere near big enough to fit this. So this is by far the biggest panel I've gone with. And I'm excited. So not mounting it quite yet. I am just going to kind of put it on a media center to start, and then I'm going to take this off and get a new mount for the LG C4. But I think I'm going to swap things around today. Okay, so don't mind the fact that the lounge area is a huge mess right now. A lot is going to be changing in this area. Looking to get a new couch in here, new table, furniture, media console. But as of right now, I want to kind of clean it out so I have room to kind of maneuver the TV in, kind of clear the space. I'm also thinking about swapping the media console temporarily because I have another console that I'm not using anymore that may fit better for the time being. So I kind of want to try that out. And since I'm going to be cleaning out the area anyway and eventually unmounting that TV, figured why not kind of experiment real quick. So with that, I guess cue the time lapse. Okay. Now, honestly comes the hard part. Just getting the TV out and assembling it. And managing to see if I can even do that by myself. Yeah. These are super thin. Now you may be wondering, the C5 did just get announced and will be coming out later this year, I think, not early next. But at least from what I've seen thus far, and pricing hasn't been announced, I'm pretty happy with the C4. And it was on sale, so got it for a couple $100 off. Maybe that's due to the C5 being announced, but for everything I need, this should be more than sufficient. Mistakes have been made. Okay. Oh my gosh. Do this without. Honestly. There you go. Something I did not notice. I don't know if this is new. Yeah, the C4 has this like gradient back. So traditionally these have like a smooth back, at least on my previous series, but it has this like finish here where it's like textured, almost like a marbling. Shouldn't be too much pressure on the front. And then pulls to get it on this. Hopefully it'll fit. Thankfully, with this media console, it's much lower, so it's easier. Okay, here we go. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we did it. Not that I would recommend that in any way, but move it back here. This thing is huge. And dwarfs that 55-inch behind it. Obviously, it's not mounted. It's lower to the ground, meaning it's also closer to me too, because of the new, or not the new, but this reused media console. But gonna have a colleague swap out this. I need a better mount, like a mount that can support more weight in a bigger TV. So definitely will be wall mounting it. The standard setup. So this is going to be like connecting to TV, or sorry, connecting to the internet, selecting your time zone. You can set this up via the mobile app, which I think might make it up a little faster. Here we are on the TV. And then, of course, we gotta test out the gaming experience.
If you're captivated by what you see, make sure to subscribe and enable notifications for more stunning and immersive content. Stay tuned for more breathtaking videos exclusively on OLED Premium.
Los Angeles Lakers have coming up. On Sunday, they'll go back home and will be hosting the Oklahoma City Thunder. And then on Tuesday, they'll take on Kristaps Porzingis and the Boston Celtics.
And looking at the Timberwolves matchup, that's a game where you'd be surprised to see them lose. They'd have to have a really off night for them.
Damn, they got Jokic.
And Los Angeles making a change here. Ball's checked in. Here's Riley.
And one.
Lopez. And so he's picked up his final foul.
Through the main thrusters. We're gonna spark it. Roger that.
Locked.
Depressurizing. Engines up!
So, future Adrian here, and you got to see the kind of setup, install, and basic configuration of the LG C4 OLED that I upgraded to from the Samsung model number, which escapes me right now. But just initial thoughts, having lived with the kind of C4 now for almost nearly a month since that video. You know, big fan of the LG C series line, and obviously, as we talked about, or if you didn't hear it in the very beginning, the C5 has been announced. I think at this point, the pricing has also been announced. The C5, the G5 series, are out in the wild, and I think they started shipping, if I'm not mistaken, which prompted me to get the C4 and kind of upgrade my home office / studio gaming corner and setup. Really happy with the 70-70 inch size. I think it really helps with the wall and filling that space out. That wall can handle like an 83, and I think that for the right space and for my upstairs living room, I'll consider an 83 in the future, but the 77 like fits perfectly for where it's at. And it's one of those things where, like, obviously going from the Samsung to that model, it feels dramatically bigger, and you kind of get used to it over time as you get adjusted. And with that, I think the C4 coming off of the C3 spec-wise wasn't actually, a ton of major bumps in terms of the technical specs. I know I didn't really go into the technical specs, but it is obviously a 4K TV. The C4 in particular does have the 144 hertz native refresh rate bump versus 120 hertz on the C3. They're both obviously OLEDs, so known for that kind of really deep blacks and contrast and kind of vibrant colors. Other than that, I think the real kind of nitty gritty specs when you compare it to like the C3 versus the C4 are things, or ratings, which has, very popular breakdowns of things like TVs, actually has the C3 rated higher than the C4 when it comes down to it. And it's notably for two specific things. And this is, in fairness here, I think this kind of shares roughly the same ratings, but bright rooms. If you have rooms that are really exposed to a lot of natural light, especially with the bigger panel, you might have noticed it when I was like setting it up. I have a nanoleaf panel behind me in like the retro gaming corner that I never really kind of factored in when I was like setting up the space, but you can kind of see that reflected on the panel. Now, in certain situations, certain lightings, or obviously if the lights are off, you don't even notice it. But these are glossy screens, so it's like something I did notice. It is something to consider. Now, upstairs in my living room, we have a C10, and that's a 65-inch. I've never had too many issues there, and that has a lot of natural light. But again, mileage will vary in terms of like how lighting hits your screen and stuff like that, but it is something to consider. Like, this is one of the lower points when it comes to the C4. Also for sports, it actually got ranked lower here on the C4 than it did with the C3, and you can see some of the cons here. SDR brightness lacking and kind of direct reflections are lacking. Otherwise, in other categories, you can kind of see some of the comparisons. So, like, in terms of ratings or Arching's ratings, the C3 was actually rated really high. But in this case, like I said, when I was upgrading, I wanted to factor in having a model that supported 144 hertz refresh rate, was kind of the most recent gen model versus the C5. And even though it does have its downfalls and pitfalls in certain areas on the technical side, for my day-to-day usage and my enjoyment of content and media and gaming, it's more than sufficient. Obviously, these have the same kind of HDMI 2.1 ports across, so for all your like next-gen consoles, or if you're hooking up PCs, this is still going to be pretty sufficient for that, and that's something that I'm looking to do, obviously, in the gaming lounge / area. The C5 and the G5 come with much brighter panels, so I think it's going to kind of tackle a lot of that kind of some of the lower brightness issues that some people kind of talk about on the C4, and really kind of boost what that looks like already, especially on models like the G5. And the G5 is something I'd actually potentially consider at a certain point for my upstairs like main living room as a kind of like centerpiece TV. But for now, I've been pretty happy with the C4. This is by no means meant to be like a full review of the product as of yet. I've only been living with it for less than a month, but just want to kind of break down my experience thus far from like a pseudo, tech review perspective. But overall, I think the LG C series and TVs you can never go wrong with. Obviously, they have certain cons and pros, and your environment in certain aspects may vary. But for somebody who's looking for a really great like home theater like TV, a really great gaming TV all around, especially even like I know there's a video I watched recently from Retro RGP on like the retro capabilities of using like a C4 to mimic something like a CRT TV with things like a RetroTink 4K and whatnot. I'm really excited to kind of dive into that whole kind of config as well. Otherwise, great interface in my opinion. I'm a fan of like the WebOS. I've always had, really ease of comfort in navigating that and not too many issues compared to like other Tizen OS and other Android-based OSs on TVs. they've been consistent through and through for me. So this is a look at my upgraded LG C4 TV. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.